extend the two existing buildings, so they've got
Should I wait
their
for-
two wings.
Recording in progress.
I mean,
We're live.
Recording stopped. Recording stopped.
Okay, so I'm sorry to interrupt.
recording.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so good evening, everybody. Tonight is the March 20th, 2024 meeting of the Hamilton Master Plan Steering Committee. I'm Rosie Kennedy instead for Bill Wilson tonight, and we'll start with attendance on Marnie's end of the room.
Marty Crouch, present.
Dana Alera, present.
Ted Ackworth present.
Jack Lawrence, President.
And Rosie Kennedy. And we also have Patrick Reffert with us tonight, and Sarah Moran via Zoom. So, don't see any people on the Zoom for public comment. So if nobody minds, I think what I'd like to do is just vote on the minutes first, and then we'll get into Sarah's presentation. So we have two sets of minutes. We'll start with the January 10th, 2024 minutes. And then we have the February 14th, 2024 minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Jack, and then second?
Second.
Dana, second. Any discussion?
Good job, Rosie.
Well, that's kind of nice. Okay, so then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great, so that's all done. Minutes are approved as submitted. And then our major topic tonight is to review and potentially vote on the draft master plan document, and then discuss next steps regarding planning board review of the document. So Sarah, take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Rosie. Hello, everyone. Hope you've all been well. So just to update you on where we're all at, excuse me. So last month we all met to discuss the draft. Several of you stated that you had some major comments and didn't feel comfortable voting at the time. So I took some time to accept your written comments and do another revision of the plan. I think I just want to thank all of you who commented for your comments. They were very substantial, and I think that the plan became better as a result. I simply accepted the vast majority of them. There were a few comments that I had to tweak a little, a few things I couldn't do, but overall, I hope that I did a good job of addressing your comments. I'll say one major thing that came up a few times in comments were about updating data sources. So I updated a few data sources that were out of date at the time it was written. We had made a mistake not using the most recent data source. I did update a few of those. For anything that was current at the time of writing, I left because we just don't have really room in the scope and budget to redo all of the data. And also, the thing with the master plan is it's such a long-term plan, over a decade, that next year it'll all be out of date again. So it really can only provide a snapshot, even in the best case scenario. So it's okay if it's a little bit out of date. It's all within a year or two. So I just wanted to make that general comment because there were a few of you who commented on the data sources, and some of them I changed, most of them I did not update. Other than that, there are a lot of spelling, not a lot, but some spelling errors, typos, inconsistencies, a few substantive changes. And some of the major ones that we discussed at the last meeting were referencing a few more of the recent projects. I color-coded the implementation table, updated the map references, just quite a few changes all throughout. So hopefully you've had a chance to look through the amended draft that I sent. And hopefully as a group, you can sort of discuss it. And, our goal is to get you folks comfortable with, voting to recommend this plan to the planning board. So again, the formatting is still not final. I'm going to give it a nice color scheme, add pictures, all that stuff. I didn't want to do that yet because, once the content is finalized, then I can do that without worrying that things will have to change later and mess up the formatting. So that's my very next step. Once you folks approve the plan, I'll sort of go into a hole and work on that. But I just wanted to make sure the content was good. So that was just sort of my very brief overview of what my activities have been since last time. Again, thank you all for your comments. Rosie, I'll kick it back to you if the board has anything they want to discuss or bring up or ask.
I'll just make a quick comment and then let others chime in. But reading through again, I noticed that there were some still some substantive errors that I think should be corrected. They're not huge, but they but I think they're important. So, for instance, a couple of the tables, 4.6.10 and 4.7.6, don't have any dates that reference the material. So I think that's important. And then there are a few other things. So I don't know, would people like to start and just discuss anything that they thought needed perhaps improvement or that they were happy with? Jack?
I think it is very much improved, and I was glad to see Kristen Kazner's name has now been corrected. I really concentrated this go around on the recommended programs. There are a few that I wanted to make a few comments on if I could. One was to hire a full-time conservation agent. I thought we had one. I think the last one just resigned, I think, or retired. But that's been we've had one for Jim having been before, and don't we have one?
He was 19 hours.
Oh, 19 hours, okay.
We now have a conservation agent that we share with Manchester by the Sea.
Oh, that's good.
So she's full-time between the two committees.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay. So that's perfect. On the Open Space Committee, we had a very good Open Space Committee, and the selectmen fired them all, and then formed another one, and then the thing kind of went to pieces. So Open Space Committee has been sort of an open wound. The original one was chaired by Gretel Clark, who was a force, having put our whole composting program together and garbage program and stuff like that, and she got thrown into the trash, unfortunately. So that's sort of that's a bit of a painful subject, and I think it's a great idea to reconstitute it, but I don't know on what basis that's necessarily going to happen. Same thing kind of with the on the Agricultural Commission. We actually have an Agricultural Commission, and my wife believes that she's a member of it. It's chaired by...
I'm sorry, which page is the agricultural one?
77.
70.
It's 4C on 70.
4C, okay, 4C, thank you.
So that could easily be revived. Peter is, I don't know if he still wants to be chair or whatever, but I think it's a good suggestion. I'm just sort of throwing in background here, if that's okay. And 5B, again on page 77, working with the Essex County Trails Association to create an accessible townwide map. We actually have a townwide map. I've just given it to Patrick, which was prepared by the Essex County Trails Association. The problem with it is it shows all the maps on all the trails on public lands, and then they kind of stop because they hit private land, and the Trails Association just has a policy of not continuing the trails across private land on the map, but they exist. Unfortunately, you have to go exploring to see which ones exist and which ones don't exist. But that's the fundamental problem. But the trail, the map itself, and maps like this exist for Ipswich, West Newbury, Hamilton, Wenham, so forth. And where you see trails, going along in Appleton Farms or Harvard Forest or Bradley Palmer or Willowdale or wherever, and it just stops. In most cases, they just continue. So that's the only message I'm sort of delivering here.
But I wonder if there's a reason for that. I don't know if Carol Lloyd is still
Yes, she is.
involved with that.
Very much so.
But I know that she has been, just to put it out there, I know she's had to be very careful because some landowners open it maybe just to horses or just to people walking. And I know that she was very careful.
Yeah, those are all easements, so maybe it's more conservative not to publish those on a
Well,
trail map.
licenses, if it's a license, then, I mean, an easement is, right, it would be a license.
Where the owner allows them
Yeah,
for
yes.
certain kinds of use.
Correct,
And
yeah.
61, on 61B, there's a thing that you could check and say,
Right,
the public is welcome to cross that private land. A lot of these things are in the deeds too, but
That would be
even then, the
that would be
ECTA
the
is a little bit,
easement.
and, it may be something that needs to be discussed as a planning function of the town and worked through with private landowners, because as Maureen will tell you, if you get on your horse or you're out there on your bicycle or you're walking or running, the trails just go and go and go and go, and nobody ever says, get off my, I had, in my 70-plus, 80-plus years in this place, nobody's ever said, get the hell out, except there was one woman over in Woodland Mead who attacked me, and I got even by bad-mouthing her all over town to the point where she finally called me up and said, can we talk? But it's not a problem, generally speaking.
Well, Woodland Mead is a prime example because people use the trails, but they're
Yeah.
actually not open to the
Yeah.
public.
Well,
Nobody says anything.
Yeah.
And equestrians are welcome, and we're protected by state law. But again, it's sort of just under the radar. I mean, we're not, I don't think Woodland Mead would want to be on a map necessarily, but that doesn't mean
Right.
that
There
anybody's
isn't a
out
quiet
to
allowance,
keep people from using the trails.
Some of the difficulties with that, though, is that we don't have enforcement mechanisms.
right.
There's that, and then if properties do transition from ownership to ownership, and I can tell you, having been part of the building department and the planning department for about a decade now, a lot of people aren't happy about having people they don't know on their property, with the expectation that that's being required of them. And it's not an easy thing to handle.
Right,
I
right.
know that Carol,
Carol Lloyd,
we
yes.
have spent a great deal of time in trying to smooth things out from time to time, but I'm not sure there's a solution to it when you have ownerships changing.
and people come from places where they're much more heavily populated than they are here, and they feel very strongly about private land. And here, it's been a resource as long as I've been around,
Yeah.
and that's a long time now. And It's
Can
a
I
very
just,
valuable
can I ask a
resource.
question, Jack, about what you're trying to, because you're looking at 5B, right?
sorry?
You're looking at 5B is what you're looking at?
Yeah.
So because in terms of, like, is your question, like, because the 5B says, work with Essex County Trail Association to create accessible townwide map of trail access.
The map exists. so-
I get that, but I guess what I'm asking you, because we're really thinking about, like, are you questioning whether 5B should be reworded or removed, or like, what do you think in terms of the specifics of the master plan?
I don't have an answer. is all I'm saying. Unfortunately, I'm saying the map exists, go explore is about all I can suggest. It's, this says it needs to be created, so it's just a perspective matter that I'm bringing up, that it does exist.
Well, that's what I guess that's what I'm
That's
trying
about
to,
all I
I'm
can
trying to
say.
push you on, is are you saying that we should remove 5B because in fact this already exists? Or are you saying you would like to rework it to reflect that while the map already exists, you'd like us to work to improve the map?
Am I right, Jack? I haven't looked at those maps in a while. I think I don't think there's one that's exclusively for all of Hamilton. It might be broken up, like the Pingree Woodlot might be one.
No, this is Hamilton and Wenham.
But it's published
Oh.
by ECTA.
Yeah,
Okay, so
It
it
covers
does
other
include,
areas as
it
well.
includes all of Hamilton?
yes.
Oh, okay.
And it's a real asset. I've used it as well. So let's keep it. If anything, I'd say it's not, we don't need to do it. We should reword 5B to be more like, commend, support, and help improve.
Supplement if necessary. you
Right,
know.
right.
I just think it's a fabulous resource here,
Right.
and I have to tell you, the only way I've ever able to tell is when we get, if you can remember long enough back, when we actually had about 6 inches of snow at a time, and you could get your skis on and go someplace, then you know how much the trails are used, because the trails are broken out pretty damn quickly, and it's a wonderful thing.
I actually am in wholehearted agreement. I'm just thinking about that. I suspect that people have long lists of items, and I just want to make sure, like, we're just moving through the items,
Yeah,
and so
we're going
on
down a
this.
rabbit hole here
So
on
on this
top
item,
5B.
Yeah.
like, are we just saying, it sounds to me, and I'm just reflecting your words, I also enjoy the trails and use the map and am very grateful for them. But it sounds like what you're saying is that you'd like to rework this item to say something like what Ted just said, to continue to work with Essex County Trail Association to
Expand access.
to improve accessible townwide maps and trail access and connect. I mean, it sounds like it's a small tweak
Right.
that's all we're looking for. Is that?
Agreed.
Okay, so was that
Yeah,
pretty
no, I
much
agree.
your,
I think that's right.
was that pretty much your comment, Jack?
Yeah,
Have anything
that's pretty much, you got into the form base, which is good. The deficiencies of the Estate Overlay District and OSFPD, unfortunately, those are things that the planning board needs to address at some point, because they were not well written initially. And that's, other than that, that's all my comments.
Well, I will address the implementation program, since that's where we are. I had a number of edits for that. So we start out with the fact that the last page where you list the different parties and the priority ranking is page 74. The implementation program begins on page 74. So
Oh, okay.
that's an issue. So I'll just run through it.
Oh, you're just saying, there's two page 74s.
On
Right,
that
2 page
note,
74.
there are numerous pages that are misnumbered. At the beginning, we
Yeah,
repeat
there's
one
pa-
and
there's
2 and
two-page
1 and
ones,
2.
I noticed
I
that,
know, it's
yeah.
just a simple clerical
Yeah,
correction.
there's some issues with
Page
pagination.
and 8.
But
Oh, yeah, I suspect that's an issue with how we're using like section breaks in the Word document. That's easy enough to smooth out.
Right.
And also on that note, I noticed 136 bibliographic references. It'd be good to include in the appendix a table of a bibliography.
All right.
Okay, so on 1B, I would make 1B consistent with 1C. For the implementation of adopt zoning to facilitate the reuse and redevelopment of portions of Gordon Conwell, I would eliminate volunteers and put consultant/staff capacity the same as 1C. Then on 6A and 6B, the colors are wrong. So for 6A, it should be red, and for 6B, it should be light green.
Wait, hold on, is light green is ongoing, right?
No, light green is medium term.
Ongoing is, hold
That
on,
the case.
light green
I
is,
think ongoing should be green. Hold on, I
medium term
lost
should be
it.
yellow.
Here we go. We're looking at
On my printed copy,
6A and 6B.
medium is pale green,
Rita, is that for your comment?
and dark green
Here.
is long-term ongoing. Right here.
So Marty, on my computer screen, medium looked yellow.
It's just, I think we're saying the same thing. I'm just calling that yellow and you're calling it light green.
Okay, well, whatever. It's,
Well, so I think I'll take the note that in the final version, there should be better differentiation between the colors.
right, but clearly,
She is right, though, that
short term
it's,
should be red.
Okay.
And a medium term should be either yellow or a lighter shade of yellow. And then in 8A, we're talking about the water and exploring the ability to connect to Salem and Beverly water infrastructure. And I think that we also are considering the MWRA. That may or may not be likely, but that's in the mix. So that's it on the implementation program. Just as a note, though, with respect to the footnotes, sometimes the footnotes do not have periods at the end of the sentence or the end of the note itself, and other times there are periods. I don't know why that is. There are also some references in the footnotes that seem to be incomplete and have ND, N period, D period, there. And I don't know what that stands for, and I don't know what that means. So I think that that has to be examined. Those footnotes have to be looked at, and I don't know what that means.
I believe ND stands for no date, and it refers to some document that, for whatever reason, doesn't have a clear date attached to it.
Well, whatever. It was not immediately obvious to me that that was what was intended. So you might just take a look at that.
Okay.
Was that the extent of your comments, Bonnie?
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
were you doing all the implementation comments?
I'm done with the implementation
Do we want to
comments.
just do all the implementation comments?
Anybody else have
Does
any?
anybody else have any implementation comments?
I'm happy to say I did have some, and that they were, as Sarah said, they were addressed when I sent them in writing, and they've been addressed here, so thank you for that.
Okay, great.
All right,
Do you
excellent.
have any?
Well, I think the
Not that
color
hasn't been
coding
covered
works
already.
really well, too.
Great. Okay, so next, Marnie, or whomever, is there, do you have,
I don't know how to proceed here, because I do have, a substantial number of grammatical type edits, but I also have found typos. So, for example, on page 1, which is
Which
the
page
second
one?
page 1,
second,
land use.
1B?
So we have inconsistencies with the assessor's database. So it always puzzles me why there's no hyphen for the assessor's office, but there is none. So we should eliminate the hyphen for assessor's database to be consistent with how the town refers to the assessor's office. And also, you don't use the hyphen consistently with respect to the assessor's office or database. So that has to be checked. And then there's no period at the end of the last paragraph on that page 1.
All right.
That's probably just running spell check in Word.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that didn't show up for some reason.
right.
Anyway, fixed it.
Page 6, these are minor, but they jumped out at me. Page 6, the third line from the bottom. I can read the whole sentence. It says, "Through the special permit process, the planning board may allow a 20% increase in units over what would be permitted in a conventional subdivision of the same size with the ability to earn an even greater density bonus up to 50% by contributing to townwide priorities through providing, I would say by providing, extra open space, et cetera.
Okay.
Page 7. Last sentence. There's a reference to the Hamilton Historic District Commission, and you have in the district are subject to approval by the Hamilton Historic District Commission, who are, it should be which is. Oh, and then the first paragraph on that same page, the last sentence, the bylaw includes a hard cap of 100 units that may, and it should just be, may be constructed. I think there's an extra word in there. That should be taken out.
Yeah, I think that's meant to convey that the 100 units are not like a per project basis. I think that's just, this bylaw can only ever produce 100 units in the history of the bylaw.
Right.
That may
Total.
ever be,
A
that's
hard cap of 100 total units that may be constructed? Is that what you're trying to convey?
Yeah, here, I'll highlight it. But
Maybe just rework the sentence to make it a little more simple. Bylaw allows a maximum of 100 units for the town. Something that's just a little more easily conveyed.
Yep, I'll think on it.
Okay.
And then on page 8, last paragraph, you have, for example, interstate highways and arterials provide the highest level of mobility with high-speed traffic between 55 and 70 miles per hour. Did you refer to any arterials in Hamilton? Because we have no speed limits of 55 miles an hour in Hamilton.
That came up at the last meeting.
I think they referred to Route 1A as a principal arterial.
But the speed limit's never 55 on Route 1A.
Yeah, the highest it gets is Ipswich at 50, but it's certainly not in Hamilton.
Right.
Hamilton, right.
It's 40. Just to-
It's certainly possible
For a
that
moment.
somewhere on Route 1A, somewhere, it gets up to 55, but certainly
it's
not
not
in
in
Hamilton.
Maybe farther north
Right,
when you get
it's
past
possible.
the small towns.
Level of mobility, let's see.
Yeah, that was in the earlier.
Maybe I'll just strike the reference to that specific speed limit range. I don't know.
For Hamilton?
Because it sounds like that first sentence really is just defining interstate highways and arterials generally. It's not actually specific to Hamilton. You're just saying this is what an interstate
Right,
highway and
right,
an
right.
arterial is.
It's kind of not relevant.
Right, maybe
It's
the
not-
first
I-
two.
Well, except that 1A is defined
As
as
an
an
arterial.
arterial,
So I added
but
the
it-
Right, and it's confusing that it's not in that speed range.
I added potentially between 55 and
yeah, I
75.
think that's an easy fix.
Okay. All right. Page 9. You referred
Do we
to
end
wo-
up submitting these?
Well,
Those of
that's
us on the
just it.
list?
I can
Or are
go
we going to
through-
do it all verbally and it's
I can
getting
do this
caught?
verbally, or we can,
Resubmit.
submit it.
Well, have you
It's more efficient
already
just
sent
for
them
us
to?
each submit.
No, I just finished this yesterday, so I can send you my edits if you would prefer, or I can go through them. Either way.
Do you have a lot?
I have
Yeah.
a lot of minor grammatical errors, but I also have some more substantive problems.
I think me personally, I would like to hear the ones that are substantive, but I think the grammatical errors and things could be, that's my opinion.
Okay, so we can skip through these. I can send them to Sarah one way or the other.
Yep, that's fine.
Do you want to go with your substantive
Yeah.
comments?
So Yeah, there's, hold on, I'm gonna skip through here. Oh, I know, there was a reference, it was a reference to the Hamilton Wenham School District, and it's the Hamilton Wenham Regional School District. That should
Okay.
be clarified.
Okay.
The one problem I saw, I'm looking for it now, is you were talking about the area median income in 2021. And,
Yeah, I'm guessing that's in the housing section.
okay, so on page 39,
39.
you refer to the median household income as being $116,699 in 2021. However, on
yes,
page
okay.
49, you refer to the estimated median household income in 2021 as being $120,357. So that has to be clarified. It may be you've mixed up family size, but it's got to be one number or the other. So that's
Okay.
a
Yeah.
substantive problem.
My guess is it was a different source used, but yeah, I'll highlight that.
Well, I have looked to try and find that information at times, and you would think it would be straightforward, but it is not.
No, I have easy access to it. I can check it. No, they don't make it easy.
Oh, okay. With reference to the Hamilton Development Corporation, I'm on page 45, I'm sorry, 45.
45.
Okay.
45.
So, the Hamilton Development Corporation, if you look at their charter, you have it, is a public nonprofit dedicated to facilitating beneficial economic growth in underlying areas of town, focusing on the downtown business district. That's not the case. It's underutilized areas of the downtown business district and zoned commercial overlay districts. So they do not have a roving mandate to do any work other than in the downtown business district or commercial overlay districts.
Right, it's very clearly defined.
It's clearly defined. So that, I think that substantive problem appeared on page 45 and 46, and it might also have shown up, I know it showed up in one other place. And so with respect to those 18 units of development on Willow Street, that project was partially funded by the Hamilton Affordable Housing Trust. And if my recollection is correct, I think the Affordable Housing Trust provided $500,000 in funding for that
That
project.
sounds right.
That's correct.
And I think that should be noted, because it really, I mean, I'm not trying to diminish the role of the HDC, but once that project got off the ground, the Affordable Housing Trust was instrumental in a complex funding scheme.
Okay.
Well, my apologies, but most of my edits are really more grammatical. There are some, typos and that type of thing, but I can send them to you.
Yeah, that's for the best. Okay. as long as the rest are non-substantive, I can address those on my own.
Yeah, you did have some, let's see. Oh, the other issue with the HDC, that was on page 58. Second
Okay.
paragraph from the.
Yeah, that's where I figured it would be in the economic development section. Okay.
You had some references to Moody's Analytics, though, and I thought the date should be on those. I mean, it just seemed to me to be, that would be important information.
Okay. Let's see.
Right, that was my comment. A lot of the graphs and data sheets didn't have dates on them, and I think that's important.
Okay.
Oh, here's
Yep,
one.
I see that.
It's more of a typo, but on page 60, first full paragraph, you refer to the assessing department instead of the assessor's department.
All right. So for the sources in the economic development section, I will try to track those down. If you recall, we had our colleague at RKG update that section, so I might have to reach out to him, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, and I would go ahead and put a period at the end of every footnote, because you're all over the place on that.
Yep, they'll all be one way or the other.
That was the case in the earlier correction, too.
Oh, okay, you were talking about 3A. This is on page 70. 3A is a difficult discussion, but Andrea Campbell, she's the Attorney General. She has commenced litigation against the town of Milton, and it was reported in the Boston Globe just the other day that the Supreme Judicial Court, for those uninitiated, the highest court in the Commonwealth, has agreed to hear that case in the fall of this year. So that bypasses the land court, the Superior Court, and any intermediate, the Mass Appeals Court. So
Money,
it's going
fall of 2024.
fall of 2024.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really significant litigation, and it's almost impossible at this point to predict how the SJC would rule. But I would add, that maybe to the discussion of 3A. It is the.
What page are you on?
Page 70. It's the last full paragraph.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah, because the other wrinkle there is the fact that they're not served by rapid transit, right? It's a trolley car.
It's trolley cars. So, I mean, the SJC could look at Milton as a special case, but I suspect they'll get a lot of amicus briefs from a lot of towns, so they could look at the statute the way 40B has been interpreted, or they could say, wow, this statute is overbroad, we're going to circumscribe it, or instruct the Commonwealth to relook at this.
This is
Based on, the size of the community or something like, it's completely unpredictable at
right.
this
You're
point.
all of that is true, and like again to Sarah's earlier point about it's a snapshot in time. Like we're not going to have all that information before we write this. We have to write it now. Like we're just not going to have.
Well, we will have an answer, it probably in 2024.
But this will be finished. This will be finished.
Like in other words,
Well, you could say the answer is likely to come
Yeah.
sometime in this year.
My opinion.
we can't see the future, right? We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is my opinion, for the 4.5 cents it's worth. I think this is a good general comment about 3A, and I'm not sure we need to go into it any more definitively, because there could be another lawsuit come up next week, and how far do we go? And is Milton's lawsuit relevant to our master plan? I wonder.
Yeah,
Right. Rosie, I was sort of thinking that as I was writing this, obviously all eyes are on Milton now. I mean, certainly mine are, but right, in 3 months, it could just be a footnote. Something might happen. So my goal with this was to stick with what we know. We know the state wants the town to do this. And we know they've officially issued such and such statements about it, and,
And
now to deal with it.
we have to trust the future people who are sitting in our seats or in our select board seats or our planning board seats. The future people are going to have the ability to look at this and say, well, this was written in 2024 and X, Y, and Z has changed since then. And it's still a framework for them to look at.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to be able to say, well, we didn't have access to all of the legal decisions that occurred in 2024 or 2025 or whatever.
Right.
So-
I think it's important we just cut off like updating the content of the plan. Like obviously like typos and grammatical corrections of the type that Marnie's talking about. And most of the comments so far fall under an umbrella of, fixing things. But at a certain point, we have to stop updating and changing.
I have some just
Okay, please,
Questions?
Marnie, if you're all set, then we'll have.
I'm done.
Okay. Thanks, Marnie.
So mine are kind of a little bit, first of all, I did see that several of my questions and comments were reflected, so I appreciate it. And so it's possible that these I'm going to ask about were not changed or not reflected because you have a reason, but I'm just going to ask. So on page 13, table 4.26, there is no information for the Street Bridge, and I just wondered why. Like, I didn't know if we'd, and we may, I was just like, that was seemed sort of curious to me.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. I can double check the source, but it's possible it just wasn't in there.
Doesn't have Bridge Street,
What page is that?
13.
Oh, 13, sorry.
yeah, there was earlier, it somehow got wiped out, I think.
Yeah, I just,
Rebuild.
Oh.
That's a recent rebuild.
yeah, and I had a weird,
Bridge.
weird moment where I was like, I'm convinced there's a marker on that bridge that says what date it's from, and I drove there, and you know what? There's not. So,
Oh, okay, that's dedication to fact-checking
2019
data. Very
edition
good.
of the source wouldn't have had that bridge, because it was rebuilt since then, right?
Bridge Street, I'm not sure what year it was, and that's, I don't know what year that was, and that's a good, yeah.
But it was there even
was-
in 2019, so.
Yeah, I
there
don't
should be
know.
information.
Okay, then on page 22, if you look in the table 4.3.1 says that Chabaco Lake has none for impairments, but if you look at the paragraph above, it reads Chabaco Lake and Miles River are also impaired.
Dana, again, what page was that? Sorry.
22.
22. Are also impaired. And what the source is, Mass DEP. All right, yeah, that's an inconsistency.
Good
Flows.
pickup.
Here,
Dana, that was good.
Does a lake have a flow?
I mean, it has inflow. Yeah, it does. I mean, it has little rivers and streams that
It
flow in
flows
and out.
Flows
Yeah.
out, yeah, I guess that's right.
Okay, and then this one is one that you may just have rejected. It was a suggestion on my part, and it may be that, on page 25, the second paragraph starts off with Wenham Museum's mission is to celebrate childhood, da, 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 da. And then the final sentence says, although not located within the borders of Hamilton, this museum, and my suggestion was to move that, although not located within the borders of Hamilton, to the top of the paragraph. Because I know my first reaction was like, Wenham Museum's not in Hamilton. Like, that is a very minor, I'm not, and that's all I have.
Redundant.
Yeah, I do understand the thought of putting that first, but it also doesn't really go with that first sentence talking about the mission. Like,
Yeah,
when a museum's mission is not that in spite of not
Nope.
being in Hamilton.
Correct.
So I could see either way.
Again, not a concern, not a big concern, just thought I'd throw it out there, and then I'm done.
Okay.
That's not going to be a make or break for me.
Ted, do you have anything?
No, that hasn't been covered.
Okay, and Jack, you said
I've
you were
done,
finished, okay.
I've shot my wad.
Okay. So I have a few things that are.
Except I could make one comment, and that is I hope we are not going to vote today because the thing's not complete. And, you know, without an introduction, which is going to be a critical piece of this, and probably the only thing anybody will ever read, and the appendices, I don't think we have anything to vote on, to tell you the truth.
Okay, well, there are certainly some things that we need to continue to address, and obviously, we can't just approve something with amendments because they haven't been updated and we've not had a chance to re-review.
I'm working on an introduction text,
Okay,
and I'll send that out by
Okay.
the end of close of business on Friday.
okay, great. We look forward to looking at that. Okay, so let me just add a few things. The end of on page 2, the end of the, on institutional, excuse me, wait a minute, end of the first paragraph where we're, on page 2, where we're talking
The second
about.
page, too.
You're talking about 60, chapter 61, 61A, that part?
End of the first paragraph on page 2.
Under the graph, under the table,
Oh, no, wait a minute. What's this?
Which page 2?
Yeah, is there, are there two?
There are 2, or 3 page
there's a
2s.
first page 2 and a second page 2.
Okay, it's the one where it's talking about affordable affordable housing. So help me, kids, because my iPad is not working, so I'm looking at this.
Is it the
map.
vision, maybe? No.
Residential development, I'm sorry. I think it's.
Oh,
kind of-
yeah, no, I think you might be talking about the vision.
Oh, here we go. Okay, it's on the page 2 that has table 4.1.1.
Okay, that's
There we
second
go,
page 2.
okay.
Second page 2.
All right, I'm there.
Okay, wait a minute. Nope, sorry. Oh, geez, oh, Pete. Okay, keep helping me. The issue is, okay, here it is, yes. It is just under 4.1.1, the sentence that begins with historic farmhouses. The last sentence, downtown Hamilton has many homes built before World War II, as well as affordable rental apartments operated by the Hamilton Housing Authority. I think that should be clarified because the Hamilton Housing Authority administers the apartments, but they are senior and disabled persons' apartments. It's not just general affordable housing. Okay, so that's something I thought should be corrected.
Okay.
Okay, and then the next thing is on page 3. Good heavens, is there just one page 3? It has to do with myopia, and, oh my gosh, it's so hard reading in a 1-inch.
So I'm guessing that's the first paragraph under the heading institutional uses.
Yeah, okay,
Is
there
it
we
about
go.
there?
So it talks about the Myopia Hunt Club, which is predominant, famous for its equestrian activities. Myopia is myopia, and it has the hunt club, but it also has a golf course, so it's not just, it's not just a hunt club for equestrians.
Okay.
So, I think that, to clarify,
Yeah.
it's,
That is what it's called, though, isn't it?
well, so it's myopia, and then it's the hunt club, and there is a pretty.
Very active bar.
Yeah.
And the golf course as well, so.
No, I agree. It should say golf course. It should say famous for its equestrian activities.
And it's a pretty
golf.
well-known golf
Oh, yeah,
club as
definitely.
well.
Racket sports.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
swimming
but just in
pool.
especially in terms of land use, golf course is a huge land use.
Right, exactly. Okay, so then down on page 12, okay, so under the parking, this is an awkward first sentence. Hamilton's primarily large lot residential zoning has an impact on parking infrastructure. That sort of is a non sequitur, because then you discuss the parking predominantly in the downtown, which is not large lots, it's very small lots. So I don't know what relevance that first sentence has. Can you maybe let us know what you're thinking? Because where there are large lots, parking's not an issue, and there's nothing large lot in downtown.
Correct.
That's true.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to just striking that.
Okay, it's
I'd
just,
strike that sentence.
Yeah.
okay. All right, okay, and then just as I said, page 44, table 4.6.10, there's no year ascribed to that, and then on page 56, 4.7.6, likewise, there's not a date ascribed to that data. So those were all my comments.
All right. So I believe that was everyone's comments.
That wasn't too bad today, Sarah.
No, and they were pretty reasonable. And again, I will look at what Marnie has to send in written form. I think these all fall under the correction category, which is reasonable to do. So, Jack, you were saying that you would not feel comfortable voting tonight, even with, amendments as da-da-da-da. So do the rest of you feel the same way?
Comments?
I mean, if it goes to a vote to approve it, I don't think I'd vote to approve it. It's not ready.
I agree. Marnie, Dana?
I agree. I'd like to see the introduction. I'd like to see final
I-
product.
I agree. I would like not to have more than one more meeting. I really feel like this has been, I'm coming up on 3 years.
I'm with you. I've been here since the start as well, so
And
I appreciate that.
Dana, it's a way of life.
Well, I signed on for a year.
We can start the next
Yeah.
plan as soon as we
Yeah.
publish it.
No. I actually agree. I think we need one more, but this is just me, I'm only speaking for myself. What I'm looking for is a meeting where we get the plan ahead of time and we come in with an up or down vote. Like,
Well,
I
We
mean,
don't- we
obviously,
don't
someone might say
reconvene.
there's a spelling error on page whatever, but I'm not looking for people, like, if we're not at a point where there are, I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not looking to come into the next meeting with people saying, I think we need to rework another section, or redo another thing, or add more information.
Oh, I
And I would like to know that now, if that's what people are thinking.
Yeah, no, the
And
critical.
Dana, just for our part, we've run out of budget to do that anyway.
Yeah.
The appendices and the introduction, if that will be a complete document that I will feel I can either sign or not sign. That's what I want.
well, and also the reality of having the fairly completed document in front of us gives us much more opportunity to really assess what needs to be edited. And so, in defense of our wanting another meeting, this was a great opportunity to really look it over in its entirety. And this is really the first time that we've had that opportunity. I feel like you do, Dana. I mean, I would like to get this thing to the printer and have it be completed. But I also feel, on the other hand, that we have worked really hard on this, and there are hopefully just this round of corrections that we have, and that it will be a done deal with the introduction by next time. I'm with you, and I would want that to
the
absolutely be
appendices.
the goal. And the appendices.
appendices.
Well, the appendices is just going to be the meetings, right? And the summaries, is that right?
Yep, which you have already seen, but if you want to look over them again, that's fine. So from my perspective, the point of the appendices is just to have a record of what was said at those meetings, separate from, how we use that in the document, just for posterity's sake. So they're relatively just dry retellings of what was said at those meetings, and it is material that you've already seen.
Right.
So I didn't think it was particularly important to include them in this draft because really we probably shouldn't be, commenting and changing them unless you notice, like a typo or something. But if you want that included in this next draft, that's fine. But that's all they are. Nothing really like
When we're dead and
substantive to the
gone,
plan.
this document's still gonna be out there. And so
With
I
our
wanna
names on
make
it.
sure this is a document that I'm
Right,
proud
right.
of.
But I agree though, Sarah, we have had ample opportunity to discuss the summaries from the community meetings, and I know that we did discuss them and actually and we did look at them, so, but just for completedness sake, it would be good to maybe have them on the final draft, so that we could just
Okay.
browse through them.
So the only brand new information we're still waiting for is the introduction. Everything else we've seen, and there may be, I get, adjustments based on our comments, but everything else, right?
Right.
Just
It
making sure
would
I'm
seem, right?
understanding, right? Everything else.
All on me.
The introduction.
Patrick, no pressure.
One
right,
thing
so-
we can nail down, the bridge, DPW tells me, was finished in 2017.
Okay.
Oh, the Bridge Street Bridge?
Yes.
With the culvert and all that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know,
I
I remember there's a lot of squawking about that for
Oh,
for the railings were wooden on one side and metal on the other. I never noticed that, but it was important to some people. So
I
there
just
we go.
noticed another issue, Sarah, on page 3, you refer to Myopia as owning 415 acres. And I think they would be distressed to find that on page 30, they only own 350 acres. So the difference might be the schooling field.
Yeah, it
But
probably
that's
is. They
the,
don't own the schooling field.
Myopia owns
The
the,
trust
They do
owns it.
not own the schooling field. It's owned, the trust owns the
trust
schooling
owns it.
field.
Page 30, okay.
yeah, but that's not clear
Oh,
from,
pretty clear.
so,
They won't own this, they won't own the schooling field for probably another 15 years.
right, but so on page 3, it has to be clear that it's not the Hunt Club that owns the 415
It should be
acres.
consistent. The thing ought to be
Yeah,
clear.
it should be consistent.
And it could
if
say something like the Hunt Club and the Hunt Club
Yeah, it
Trust or
references
whatever.
the schooling field on page 3, and so that's included in the 14 acres, but that.
It
that-
does talk about the schooling field.
Right.
Yeah, it
but
does.
It implies that the Hunt Club owns it, when
They
in
don't.
fact it's the trust.
The private trust.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So to summarize, Patrick will provide the introduction. I will make these grammatical changes and corrections. And honestly, even the ones that are more substantive, I don't see as super substantive. It's just correcting little factual errors, basically. That's how I see it. So I will, I've taken notes on everything that was verbally said tonight, and Marnie will send me, through some means, her notes.
Could
Um,
I give my hard copy to Patrick? He can run it through a scanner and send it to you, and then you can see it.
Yeah, I believe you did that with the last round of
Right,
comments.
and
It should
that's
be fine.
probably a lot easier than page 5, line 17, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's fine. So the introduction, the corrections, and attaching the appendices. Then you will be able to hold a vote at the final meeting.
You
I
only got
think-
one more meeting, Sarah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean,
Okay.
it's like everybody really went through this, and we've seen the entire document, and so speak now or forever hold your peace
Wouldn't buy
kind
a
of
pig in a
thing.
poke.
Would it make sense to not convene again until we've all had an opportunity to review
Yes.
the update and say, I'm comfortable with the update?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And if you're not,
So
if
I've
you
been
are
turning this
comfortable,
around pretty
say-
fast. I don't think it'll take me a ton of time to go through and fix these things. I just gotta check how busy I am over the next couple weeks. I do just kind of want to wrap this up in a bow, though. I think we're all ready for that.
So along those lines, if we get an updated copy and a chance to review it, we could each say, I'm ready to vote yes, or I'm not ready to vote yes, and here are additional edits I propose, which could potentially be done by email without us all coming together.
Yeah, we
discussing
can't,
it.
that's, right, we can't do it as an open meeting, we can't discuss it, but we
But one-on-one.
could all send it to
Individuals could
to send
send
it
their
to
feedback.
Sarah,
Right,
yes,
right.
and, yes.
It's when you're ready to sign. And that's basically.
Would be the next time we would meet.
Yeah.
Well, right, or if someone wanted to, they could say to Sarah, we really have to have a conversation at the next meeting, because, right.
There's still issues, yeah. Well,
Right, I mean, it's fine for there to be a few outstanding issues. You can vote to accept, with, corrections as discussed.
Right.
Hopefully there will be none, but, you're a very thorough group. There may be one or two, which is okay.
This was supposed to be wound up at Christmas, right?
So, and we'll have the introduction on it next time, and so hopefully, Patrick, with his very stylistic writing acumen, will be able to do it in one fell swoop, and we'll be fine with his original draft, right, Patrick?
Put the pressure on.
Oh, I'm sure. So Patrick, just send me that text when you have it ready, and I'll incorporate it into the PDF for the next round.
Sure.
So for me personally, I would love to have these edits done by like the end of next week. Like I said, I really want to wrap this up for you folks. And as much as I don't want to say goodbye to the wonderful town of Hamilton, it has to happen. So that's my goal.
Okay, so should we, do we want to plan a meeting with the expectation that we will be finished with everything and the goal will be to vote at the next meeting, right?
Yeah, I think it's always good to have the meeting on the calendar, and it's
Yeah.
easier to cancel it and delay it than it
change,
is to
yeah.
not have one on the calendar.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
So should we go into our usual rotation of April? Would that be April, it's the second Wednesday of the month, is that right?
We've been doing the third.
The third, okay, April 17th. Okay, so it would be Wednesday, April 17th. How does that sound for everybody?
Hold on just a second, I need to check.
I was gonna say that doesn't, I am available to just, it is school vacation in case that affects anyone.
At 6:30?
Yes. Ted, does that work for you?
It is school vacation, but right now I have no plans to be away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it's going to be a big day, well,
Maybe.
let's be optimistic. Let's see, I wonder, was there something else? And so you're hoping to get the revised draft to us within 2
Timely.
weeks with Patrick's introduction? Is that right? So we have.
yeah, I think I'd like to get it done just by the end of this month.
Yeah, right, so we'll have plenty of time to review.
Yep,
Okay.
that works for me. Get it into your hands.
Yeah. So are there other things that people want to discuss? Are we finished? What do you think for tonight?
I move that we adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, so there we are. We are adjourned at 7:35.
All right, have a good night, everyone.